So welcome back to the channel. My name is Hannah, and this is a space where we talk about all things creative. So I'm sure you clicked on this title because you are also kind of in the process of potentially starting your own business, just like me. So this is a space where I'm going to be sharing my whole process as I kind of go along, because in my mind, why not share? So follow along if you're interested. In my last video, we planned out what's next. In this one, we're going to kind of talk about something that I struggle with a little bit, but I know a lot of people also struggle with, but it's the very crucial aspect of how do I choose a name for my business, right? So how do I make sure that I'm choosing the right thing for the market, the right thing for me, and something that I'm not going to get sick of. We're going to talk a little bit about my process, what I did to kind of get through that. Let's get into it. All right, so let's get started. Our brand names or business names is one of the most important pieces as we kind of build out this business or brand. So we already know most people are not going to overlook this and quickly come up with something, but it's definitely something that if you are in this stage or just thinking about, here's some ideas or things that maybe you can potentially think about. Number one, is this going to be, are you going to name it after yourself? So it's something that you definitely want to think about. If you are going to name it after yourself, if your goal or like step forward as you kind of move into this business, if it is that you want to stay small, you want to have full ownership of it, and you don't really want to grow past this point of potentially needing to or wanting to sell it, then I would say, naming it after yourself is something you potentially could do. The other thing, as an example, let's talk about Kate Spade, right? That was named after a person. That person is now gone. And it is now owned by someone else. So that particular name goes with it, right? So if you sell that business, you sell your name. So definitely something to think about. The other thing that a lot of people do, especially within the design world, is they'll add, something studio, something agency, or whatnot. You know what's out there, whatever. Definitely, not something that you shouldn't do, but it's definitely something to think about, right? All right, so we have a couple different options about you could go with your name, and there's a little bit of things that you want to think about with that. But then also, what is actually out there? What aspects what actually is out there, and how do we differentiate ourselves within the market to then be able to be a memorable, recognizable, but also differentiate ourselves from the pack. So the first step you kind of want to go into is start doing some searching. So go into Google, search, keywords that you think that your user or your key customer or, what you're doing to kind of do this like research of what's out there. What are these? And add that stuff into, use MIRO, write it down wherever you're kind of like compiling this information, write it down and put it all in one box. So that's what we did. We did a competitive kind of landscape of like what's out there, who are we going to be competing against, and then what are those businesses called? How are they kind of positioning themselves in there? So as an example, so back in the day when we had the phone books, you'll see a lot of ABC something, or you'll see a lot of that, mainly because it was the first place that you would flip when you opened up the phone book. So they would see that it would be listed first. So that was an old school version of SEO, right? So like we want to be thinking in this concept of how are people going to find us when they've only had a couple different interactions with us. Are they able to remember aspects of what we've named ourselves to be able to find us? And then when they do search that or try and come back to us, are they able to easily find us within our market? So we definitely want to be thinking about that. And then you also want to think about, if you are going to go with a completely fabricated name, so like you're meshing this and this together and whatnot, which there's nothing wrong with it. So a lot of companies do that. You just want to make sure that it's something that really lands with you and that you can stand behind. All right, so we also want to make sure that we're considering a couple different things as well. Number one, is this something that people are going to be able to easily pronounce? So as you kind of go through, if you're utilizing your name or just kind of like a mishmash of different words, just try and figure out, maybe ask a couple people if they could tell you how, this is going to be pronounced. With that, that's going to help you understand how people are going to interact with your brand or business, and if you're going to have to constantly be like telling people how to say it and pronounce it, or if you're going to you probably see in different areas as well where people are pronounced like, right? So there's nothing wrong with that, but just know if this is something that's going to potentially be bothersome to you, maybe that's something to consider before you decide to move forward. The other thing as well is we want to make sure that no other company actually has this. So you've already looked a little bit maybe within your market, but maybe do a broader search into are there different companies in different countries or whatnot that potentially have this name as well. It might not be a big issue, but just make sure that it's something that you're comfortable with as well, because when people are searching, they're going to be getting a lot of different searches as they kind of go along. Next, we also want to make sure that this is something that's going to position yourself within the brand, within your market, that's really going to put yourself in the best foot forward. So as an example, this is the name of our new branding company. So it's something that we've toyed with. We had a different name as well, but this is something that we're really excited about. It allows us to have a little bit of playfulness in our brand, but it also allows us to have a completely fresh platform, right? There's no one that has the handles, there's no one that has the website. So, but it also allows us within our space, allow us to have people, when they search for it, it's going to come up because the thing that we're selling, the thing that we're kind of positioning ourselves behind as experts is within the name. So it's going to really help us in this SEO kind of aspect of how are people going to find us. So with that, that's a little bit of share of how we kind of came up with ours. So let's get into the process. So how do we go about doing this? So we've talked a little bit about how, do we have an idea where we want to start? So if you want to go with your name, if you want to go completely fabricated, if you want to go with something that was like founders, or if you want to, add something, or if you want to do more of like a, acronym or descriptive type of stuff, figure out what you feel comfortable with. And then let's get into the second part, which is how are we actually going to go about doing this? So I'm going to actually jump into MIRO and show you this live. So we're in MIRO, and we've got this board here. So we want to be going in, and we've already gone through, as we talked about, we've already gone through and did a little bit of sleuthing ourselves and found, what businesses are actually out there, what they're calling themselves, how they're positioning themselves. And then the way that I kind of go about it is I will write a little bit about, things that I like about the brand and what they've named themselves, and then maybe things that I don't really love. So it kind of gives me something to kind of go back to. Part 2 of this is we want to be jumping into this section. So we've already done the compiling of what's out there and who our competitors are. Second, we want to be going into this area where we're going to be talking, we're going to start, this is where we're going to spend, give yourself a time limit or not, spend a lot of time on it, doesn't matter. But go in here and just start coming up with ideas, iterating quickly. So the way we think about it is, write something down there, and then maybe you have the something, whatever, and then maybe switch up the third word, or maybe switch up the second word. Is there certain things that you can kind of find that kind of start playing off of it? And then, once we've kind of jumped into there, you're going to start seeing things that maybe you vibe with. Maybe there are certain aspects to it that you enjoy. And then just maybe put a sticky next to it, or pull that one out and start iterating off of that. So take a little bit of time and try and find something that's starting to jump out with you. And I would probably recommend as well taking a step back after you do it. So take a day, a couple days, a week, come back to it, and then try and look back at it and say, maybe there's some other things that you've come up with that you've really found that you've liked. Then, after we've kind of come back to it, we're going to go into this next area. We are now going to be doing some sleuthing on ourselves. Now, it's been a couple days. We've reviewed some of the stuff. We have some maybe key contenders that we really like. We're now going to start doing some research for these brand new names. So we're going to be going into Instagram, into YouTube, into every different kind of platform that we think we might be able to find, and start searching. Is the website available? Is an Instagram handle available? Are there certain aspects to it that we might love the brand name, but we might not be able to own all of the handles. So it might be difficult for our customers to find us, and we might have to alter it, which is not something we love to do. So we've gone through the steps on here, and hopefully come up with some top contenders that might potentially be that brand new business name. So I hope this was helpful. This is actually something that we do in our branding process as well with our clients, to kind of really allow us to kind of, weed out the ones that might potentially be top contenders, but might actually in practice might not work really well and might not allow us to differentiate ourselves from the pack. So this is just a little step into getting into this first branding piece. This is the first step into making sure that we have a really strong brand kind of foot forward as we go into building the rest of the brand, and make sure that we're differentiating ourselves from our competitors, but also being something that really lands with ourselves, that we can really stand behind, and really allows us to be something that we can stand behind as well, because that's honestly the biggest thing, is we want to make sure that it's something that we really feel comfortable with, and it's going to allow us to grow as we grow as well, and potentially pivot. So with that, this is a couple different steps you can take to figure out how to name your business. So all right, so one last thing, if you are interested in having someone to kind of help you, this is something that we are considering as being something that you can purchase from us as just like one small piece to your entire puzzle of branding. So if you are interested, you can either comment down below, and then when we do have a way for you guys to get connected with us, we will send that out, and you will be the first to know when that gets live. So with that, we are going to move into actual branding, and we will show you a little bit of that process. So we will see you next week.